Hi, today we'll look at sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is one of the methods used in dealing with uncertainty. The method is used to measure the effect of changes in key variables on expected outcome. Taking a look at the projected statement we have on the screen, we can measure how sensitive the profit is to changes in key variables. So let's check out the very first variable, sales. So the projected profit is $75,000, while the sales revenue, the projected revenue now happens to be 500,000. So if I divide 75,000 by 500,000, and that's 15%, that's practically telling me that once the sales price, the projected sales price drops by more than 15%, then the project will turn out to be a loss. We can quickly do a check. The current selling price is this 500,000, which is the sales value, divided by the quantity of 5,000, which happens to be 100. So if I try to recreate this right here, then a drop in 15% would drop my price from 100 to 85% of 100, which is 85. So the new sales value will then be 85 multiplied by the quantity of 5,000, which is 425,000. If the projected cost remains exactly the same thing, my material and my labor happens to be exactly the same thing, then my projected variable cost will remain 350,000. However, my contribution would have dropped because the sales value has dropped. So the contribution would have dropped from 150 to 75,000. Fixed cost, the projection of fixed cost remains exactly the same thing, then my profit would then be 75 less 75. That simply shows that if profit actually drops, if sales price drops by 15%, the profit runs to zero. Any drop in sales price beyond 15% will take the profit to a loss situation. So another variable we can measure the sensitivity of profit to is material cost. So material cost, that's simply the profit also divided by the material cost of 250,000, and that's 30%. 30% means that if the projected material cost should increase by more than 30%, then the project will turn out to be a loss. That can also be checked right here. We can also check for that to see what the impact would ordinarily be. So let's return this back to the initial question we have. So this is exactly what we have in the question. So now let's see what the impact of a 30% increase in material cost would lead to. So that will be this multiplied by 130%, and that we have. You can see that the profit has dropped to zero. So any increment beyond that 30% in material cost will take the project to a loss. We can also check for the sensitivity of labor cost as well. Labor cost sensitivity would be this profit divided by labor cost, meaning that what labor cost, the projected labor cost can increase by up to 75%. Any increment above that 75% will take it to a loss zone. So if I take the question back to the initial sum, I will try to check out for what the 75% increment in labor cost will lead to. So 175% now, and you can see that the profit is zero. Any increment beyond 75% will take us to a loss zone. We can also check for fixed cost as well. For the fixed cost, we assume that all these fixed are actually attributable fixed costs. So let's see what the sensitivity will look like. That's 75,000, which happens to be the profit divided by the fixed cost, and we can see that's 100%, meaning that what our fixed cost can go up to the tune of 100%, can go up to the tune of 100%. Any increment beyond that 100% will take us to a loss. So we can also test for that. We return this back to the question, then we check the fixed cost. And that's this. An increment of 100% takes it to 200%, and that's 100%. That we can see that the profit has turned out to be a zero. We can also check for the volume. Volume actually impacts more than one item in this profit statement. It affects the sales, it affects the materials, and it affects labor as well. So all variable costs and the sales are impacted by volume. So if I'm trying to check for the sensitivity of a volume, it will be the profit divided by contribution, because the contribution has taken into consideration all items that are impacted by volume. So once all item impacted by volume has been treated, then you can also check profits to contribution to check for the impact of volume. So 50%, any drop in volume by more than 50% will lead to a loss. So our current volume is 5,000. So if we drop it by 50%, that takes us to 2,500. Now we delete this, delete this, delete this. We know our current sales price per unit. We can also get our current material cost per unit. That will be 250,000 divided by the quantity of 5,000, and that's 50. And the same thing for labor as well. That's 100,000 divided by 5,000, and that's 20. So new sales will be the 25, which is the reduced rate, reduced quantity, multiplied by the $100 per unit, and that's 250,000 material, 2,500 multiplied by the rate per unit, and that's 125,000. And the same thing for labor, which would be 2,500 multiplied by 20. So we can see, right there, sorry, the fixed cost is not impacted at all. It remains exactly the same thing. So we can see that the profit has dropped to 0 as well. Any drop in volume beyond 50% will lead to a loss. Thank you very much. That's sensitivity analysis. I hope that is very useful.